Hey guys, it's Saturday, July 19th. I hope you're having a great weekend. And it's hot, hot, hot here in the Ozarks in the 90 degrees Fahrenheit and humid. And the news is also hot. So let's get into it. The top 5 stories of July 19th on this Saturday. And number one, again, could be a huge story. It depends what the Trump administration does with this and Pam Bondi, but things are looking pretty bad from Magic Jesus, the Black Jesus. Yes, Obama. It looks like there was some serious corruption. And let's take a look at this. Tulsi Gabbard. I talked about this yesterday, but it's even blowing up, getting bigger. Let's listen to Tulsi. And if you remember, Tulsi used to be a Democrat, so she's not like some extreme right-wing Republican or anything like that. Let's listen to her.
Essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people, who in November of 2016 delivered a historic victory to President Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump.
That is some serious charges that Obama was attempting a coup based on fake intelligence. They knew the intelligence was fake, but they didn't like the results of the election. So they were conspiring behind the scenes with the intelligence agencies, the FBI, CIA, to manufacture fake information to try to bring down an elected president, to bypass the will of the people. This is serious. This is up there with treason.
You have gone into great detail over these years of what the effects of this document and this decision have resulted in. Obviously, a years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million.
Remember that Mueller investigation? All the shit, they just were hanging on every item. Oh, when it comes out, it's just going to totally destroy Orange Man. I heard this one cuck, he was on X or Twitter back then, and he actually had a tattoo of Mueller on his leg. I mean, God, what a loser. Could you imagine still having that? They really thought it'd be everything. And they did the investigation. It was nothing. It was all a hoax.
2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his.
That's a good point. This was potentially dangerous to the security of America because we were falsely accusing Putin of trying to interfere in our elections. You remember, the emails they stole from the Democrat National Committee that showed that Hillary basically cheated Bernie. It wasn't Putin. It was Seth Rich, but they blamed Putin, and it was all fake.
Senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a years-long coup, subverting the will of the American people.
This is amazing. This isn't me. This isn't Alex Jones. This isn't using hyperbolic language to try to get clicks. She is saying, no, this was basically a coup. It was like a color revolution, like they did back in 2014 in Ukraine. That's where they try to overthrow the elected government. They were trying the same thing in the United States, and it almost worked.
In that election in November.
Now, to me, it sounds like you have appointed powerful bureaucrats that just flat out created a narrative that was false to undermine a duly elected president. Now, if that's not a grand conspiracy, I don't know what would be. Do you see crimes here?
Before she answers, definitely. If you're in the law enforcement and you plant evidence, you're in trouble. You should go to jail yourself. That'd be like if police stop you, you're driving your car, and then they search the car, and the policeman plants, let's say, a bag of marijuana in your car so they can arrest you. Yeah, the policeman, if caught, could go to jail for that. This is equivalent what Obama instructed his intelligence agencies to do to try to subvert Donald Trump.
I do, Sean, and I'm referring all of these documents that we have found and uncovered, referring them to the Department of Justice for further investigation.
Now, this worries me a little bit. This is the Barbie girl, the Fox Bobby girl. What's her name? Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi has not impressed me. Hopefully, she will get on this. They just can't complain about this. They need to take legal actions. Obama needs to be arrested and charged with, I think, treason at this point. If they have the documents, they have to prove it in court. But it sounds like they do. And again, Tulsi Gabbard, she's not like some firebrand crazy woman. She's always been very measured and sober and prudent. So if she's saying this, I think they probably have the goods.
Accountability and action, not just investigation, but action. Accountability has to take place. The American people's ability to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic is literally what's at stake, and therefore the future of our ability to exist as the country that we know it. This accountability is critical to make.
And this needs to go beyond just Obama. Any FBI agent or intelligent official that knowingly and intentionally provided false intelligence to try to frame Trump, they need to face prison time.
Make sure that this never happens again, exposing the truth and naming those who are responsible should drive that accountability that has to take place. I just want to mention quickly, Sean, you mentioned the Steele dossier. That plays a critical role in these documents that we released, specifically because James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, they all knew that the Steele dossier was discredited at this point. It's not something any intelligence professional looked to as something that could be referenced or should be referenced.
Remember that Steele dossier was financed by Hillary Clinton. It was all fake, and the intelligence agencies knew it was fake, but they went ahead and used it to try to get a warrant. And they did get a warrant against Donald Trump, where they could spy on him during the campaign. Remember that? The FBI was eavesdropping on him. Outrageous.
In any intelligence assessment whatsoever, I know that there were professionals who were told include the Steele dossier in this January Obama-directed manufactured piece of intelligence, and they protested to people like John Brennan and James Clapper. They were shocked that it would even be considered. The Steele dossier was used in this manufactured assessment that President Obama directed be created, along with many other pieces of intelligence that the intelligence community itself, for months leading up to the election, said this is not credible and should not be used at all.
So it's being referred to Pam Bondi and Tulsi Gabbard. She believes, the director of the DNI, that this was a conspiracy that Obama and Hillary Clinton and others engaged in to try to do a virtual coup against Trump because they didn't like that Trump won. So they planted evidence. They had fake evidence, and they did what they could. Well, they did impeach Trump, but they weren't able to remove him. They do need to pay a penalty for this. This is criminal behavior. And hopefully it'd be nice. We can dream to see Obama in prison for this. But it also shows how unstable this country's become. Everything's starting to tear apart. Both sides are trying to throw each other in prison. I get the sense everything is extremely unstable, not just in the United States, but the West. And so we'll have to keep an eye on this. Hopefully the Republicans will do more than just complain. Pam Bondi will actually press charges against the people involved with this hoax and trying to frame someone by using fake evidence, and people will be brought to justice and to go to a trial. Let's hope that's what happens. So that's the number one story. I think it was my number one story yesterday, but this is still building. So that is number one story. All right, the number two story. This has to do with Ukraine. You remember how that little goblin guy that the Jewish guy, what's his name? Oh, Zelensky. Yeah, Zelensky, the dictator of Ukraine. You remember the hero, the rock star. He's like a little midget. And everyone's like, yeah, oh, he's so brave. He always wears that green fatigues like he's on the front lines or some stupid thing like that. And the Congress loved him. They were trying to make him a rock star. The establishment loved him. Well, this is something that is not boding well for Zelensky. And this is a Spectator. And again, they're very pro-Ukraine, pro-Zelensky. And they wrote a whole article about Ukrainians have lost faith in Zelensky. And they're very tough on him. And again, this is very mainstream, pro-Ukraine, previously pro-Zelensky. And they're talking about how Zelensky, well, he's a dictator. He just canceled the elections. He arrests his political opponents. He throws Russian Orthodox priests in prison. It's a dictatorship. Ukraine is a totalitarian society. It's not like we're defending democracy or anything like that. It's ridiculous. But even worse than that, Zelensky is making bad political decisions on the battlefield. He's wasting men for PR purposes, where he'll tell the soldiers to stay in a hopeless position, even though his generals are saying, hey, we're going to lose this. We got to retreat. Otherwise, we're going to lose good men. But Zelensky's, no, that will look bad. We got to hold on at all costs. So it's been really sad what has happened to Ukrainians. And so it's a mess. It's really a mess. And Russia, they're getting stronger all the time. They're building up their defense capabilities. The West is very weak when it comes to defense and manufacturing. And Zelensky's desperately trying to get a ceasefire now, because he says he sees that it's all crumbling now. I'm sure he's got his plan to evacuate Ukraine and either go to Palm Springs, probably a mansion there, or head off to Tel Aviv. Those are probably the most likely areas he'll run into. And part of the problem, remember, Trump wants to put on all these additional tariffs unless Russia agrees to do a ceasefire in 50 days. But a problem with that is the EU and much of America is totally dependent on two countries in regards for rare earths. And they need this for a lot of their military equipment. And they get most of their rare earths from China and Russia, right? So get this. We want to get it, at least the neocons like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz. They want this huge world war with Iran, Russia, and China, because they think that's in the Bible, and it'll bring the Antichrist and the Jesus will come and rapture, all that nonsense. And so they're trying to start a World War III. But two of our opponents, China and Russia, we get so much of the material from them. And this is crazy, but this is where it is right now. So this idea that we can cut China off, for example, and Russia, and then we're just cutting off our nose to spite our face. We're screwed. So there's no way that we can get around this. So the situation is looking bad for Ukraine and even worse for Zelensky, because that a mainstream publication published something negative about Zelensky. Previously, they always lied about Zelensky and did puff pieces on him and talked about the glorious victories the Ukrainians were having and all that type of nonsense. And now reality always wins out in the end. And now they're starting to turn on Zelensky. So it doesn't look good for Zelensky. This was a key moment today where the Ukrainians have lost faith in Zelensky. All right. Speaking of Tel Aviv, it seems like every day we can't go with our best little friend doing something. And our best little friend in the Middle East decided to bomb a Christian church. And I'm sure Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, they probably had orgasms over that. Yes, bomb the Christians. That's what God would want us to do. Yeah, God blesses those who kill Christians. It's Bible. These guys are nuts, right? And here's a little bit of this.
Israeli arms. Speaking of,
We won't hear the whole thing, but here, let's listen to this description about what happened.
church. We turn now from Muslims to Christians. Horrible story out of Gaza. Horrible story. The IDF has struck the only Catholic church in Gaza. According to the reporting, 10:20 a.m. yesterday, the compound of the Holy Family in Gaza, which belongs to the Latin Patriarch, was struck by the Israeli army.
And by your tax dollars paid for those weapons, so Israel could attack a Catholic church.
3 people died from their injuries. 9 others were wounded, including one in critical condition. And
by the way, this is a difference. In Gaza, there are Christians. In Israel, it's illegal to preach the gospel. Did you know that? All you Christian Zionists out there, it's illegal and Christian to share your faith in Jesus Christ. The Great Commission, Jesus commands us, we need to speak about faith in Christ. That's not optional. In Israel, that's illegal. Just let you know about that.
And the priest, the parish priest, Father Gabriel Romanelli, was also injured. This is the line from the Latin Patriarch. The Latin Patriarchate, which is the Catholic Church in Gaza, the Latin Patriarchate strongly condemns this tragedy and this targeting of innocent civilians and of a sacred place. So Israel came out later on after international outcry, including from the White House. Israel came out and said, oh, it was a mistake. It was an accident. Was it an accident? I don't see any evidence that it was an accident. Can you provide me some proof that it was an accident? You struck the church. Churches are pretty obvious targets. They're pretty obvious sites. You know, there's certain features, the cross, steeple, pretty obvious. Can you explain to me how this was an accident? Haven't heard that. The Latin Patriarch seems to think it was intentional. The targeting of innocent civilians, not just a stray bullet, the targeting. And he goes on, he says, however, this tragedy is not greater or more terrible than the many others that have befallen Gaza. Many other innocent civilians have also been harmed, displaced, and killed. Death, suffering, and destruction are everywhere. This horrific war must come to a complete end so that we may commence the long work of restoring human dignity. Diane Montagna, who's a great reporter on the Vatican and Rome and the Pope, says His Holiness renews his call for an immediate ceasefire. So this is talking about Pope Leo. He expresses his profound hope for dialogue, reconciliation, and enduring peace in the region. And then The Pillar, which is a Catholic outlet, says sources close to the Patriarchate's chancery told The Pillar Thursday that some officials believe the strike could have been a deliberate act of retaliation after Christian leaders recently condemned Israeli settler attacks on a West Bank Christian town. Now, I want you to...
So, I have no doubt Israel did this intentionally. They have pretty precise targeting. Israel, and again, I'm not a fan of the Palestinians. By the way, Israel just came out, the head of Mossad, we did the story yesterday, they had the arrogance, chutzpah, to come to America and demand that either us or other Western countries take these Muslims. They don't want them for their little ethno state, but we have to take them. Otherwise, we're Nazis. And the ones that are remaining there, they're just straight out killing civilians. More civilians have died in Gaza than in the entire Russia-Ukrainian war. It's just outrageous what's happening. And Americans, we've enabled it. A lot of Christian Zionists think, oh, they're God's people. So if God blesses those who murder Christians, it's just really crazy. But this is where we are. And I think more and more people are waking up. Like, why are we funding this country when they hate Jesus Christ? They make it illegal to share the gospel in Israel. They demand our money. They insist that we take all these immigrants while they take none. And then they attack Christian church. I'm not personally Catholic, but this is outrageous. This is outrageous. So that was the number 3 story. Israel bombs Christian church. All right. Number 4 story is the economy. And I have a heart for a lot of young men. They have a really tough time now. And here's the data. Male college grads are now just as likely to be unemployed as people who never went to college. So if you're a young man, it's almost like, why go to college? There's no advantage to that. The same is not true for women, who are much more likely to land a job once they graduate college. A lot of this is DEI because it helps the numbers if they get women in. Plus, a lot of managers that are male, they don't mind getting in these cute young girls because, they can have some fun with them maybe. So there's all of that working against young guys, especially young white guys. And the data shows this. And what's making the situation worse is we have AI that is replacing a lot of jobs, white collar jobs. It's just going to get worse. AI is getting more sophisticated. It's amazing what it does now. And then a lot of the jobs are being outsourced to India or H-1B visas, that scam, and those scammers are coming over. Horrid. But Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they support that scam and is shutting the door for a lot of young white men, especially. If you want to know why young white men are getting very right wing and radicalized, this is why. They're being frozen out of the market. So that's the number 4 story of the day. And the last story was Stephen Colbert. His late show has been canceled. Oh, poor Stephen. And just don't feel sorry for Stephen. He made $15 million a year, right? And the show, originally started out kind of funny, but it became, instead of comedy, just pure propaganda for the establishment. I think it really jumped the shark when he was promoting the vaccine. Remember that, doing that dance number? It was so cringy. And he was no longer funny. He was just a propagandist. And somehow CBS, they spent $100 million a year to produce that show. How in the hell did they do that? Well, $15 million was his salary, but what's for the rest? I mean, he was just, a desk and hire some writers, do some stupid jokes, and it just wasn't clicking. And I think also a problem is because Hollywood is in a big trouble. We just don't have the movies anymore. And these late night shows, they used to depend on a lot of movie stars coming on, interviewing them, and that really fell apart. So it really lost its way, and CBS was losing $40 to $50 million a year on this. People on the left are like, oh, the Republicans are censoring the show. No, they're not. It was just losing 40 to 50 million a year because people weren't watching it. It wasn't funny. And their budget was crazy. I don't know how they could spend that much, but that's what it was. So Stephen Colbert, he's going to be gone. And good riddance. So that was the number 5 story. So to recap the top story, I would say the number 1 story was Tulsi is calling for criminal charges against Obama. Number 2, Ukrainians have lost faith in Zelensky. This was The Spectator, a mainstream publication. It looks like they're turning on Zelensky. Number 3, our best little friends in Israel bombed a Christian church. Oopsie. Number 4, the new data shows that young men, especially white young men, it doesn't really help to get a college degree anymore for them. And number 5, Stephen Colbert, his late show, propaganda show that no one really watched anymore, and it was just boring propaganda, has come to an end. So old Stephen is going to be unemployed, but don't feel sorry for him. He made $15 million a year. So those were the top 5 stories of the day. Hey, if you like this type of show, please like it, please subscribe and send it to your friends, trying to grow the channel. Thank you guys so much. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.